Hey guys, Henning and Morten from FlippedNormals here. In this video, we are going to be talking about how you can get your first job if you are a student. So a lot of this does apply to, or some of this rather, applies if you're just a general 3D artist, but the main bulk of this video will be focused on students who are close to graduating or have just graduated from university. So before we get into all this, though, we have to preface this by saying that the most important thing about getting a job is your showreel. It's not, or your portfolio. It's not what school you went to, what website you applied for a job, or what internship scheme you had. It's the most important thing here is by far your portfolio. If you can prove that you have the hard skills to do a job, you are ahead of everyone else who has gone to a fancy school. So we're going to be looking at a couple of different sites here. So the stuff we're going to be looking now is the rookies, and then we're going to be looking at a lot of different studios, internship schemes they have, such as Framestore, the DNEG, the Mill, and a couple other ones here. But really, before we just get into that, let's just talk briefly about what it's like as a student when you want to get a job, because this can be a very stressful period, and we just want to help you guys with this. So we're doing this at this point of the year, because at this point a lot of studios and stuff like the rookies are opening up for their summer internships, and summer internships is a really good way of getting into this industry. Both Morten and myself, we got our internships through the rookies, or back when it was called CG Student Awards.
Oh, back then,
back in the good old days. So we have some experience going through this, and it's a really, really powerful way of getting into the field. So we both got our internships through the rookies, like we said, and I got my internship through Framestore. Morten started his at the Mill. Mm-hmm. Many eons ago.
Yeah, I mean it's that was all through the CG Student Awards, aka the rookies, mm-hmm. And it was, I think, an interesting thing about the rookies as such is that it's an easy platform for you to apply and get your, instead of individually having to apply to each company. The companies, they put out, they have a certain amount of internships that they allocate to the rookies, and you apply for those collectively.
Yeah. It's a really good way. So when I got started, the reason the internship I had was so good at Framestore was that first the internship was paid, which is fantastic. If you're in London is a very expensive city. So actually getting paid for the work you're doing, first it feels good that you're being appreciated, but also you're not getting broke. Second off, at least my internship, I don't think they did for you, Morten, but they provided accommodation for me.
Yeah, there was no accommodation for me.
Yeah, so that was fantastic.
Which is a big expense.
Yeah, it's a big expense, but also just as important, it's super stressful.
Yeah,
like having to find this in a major city, it takes a lot of time. Maybe you aren't able to get a lease for the exact 2 months the internship is, and you might have to stay a month more, pay for a month you're not there. So if you can find an internship which has free accommodation, that's such a huge thing. Essentially,
I had to sort all this out from overseas.
Yeah,
I had to pay for everything and just assume in a random city that I'd never been in before that keys would be there when I arrived. So
that's a very stressful procedure.
Yeah. So
free accommodation is way more important than getting paid for my sake. Like, because most of your pay would go to your accommodation.
Yeah.
If you have free accommodation, that's essentially like a hotel. You just come there, you get your keys, and then you leave your keys once you're gone. So big thing there. But then once you're an intern as well, you're part of production. Like I was part of production from day one. I worked on Paddington, doing props. You're not going to get the most hotshot thing. At least you might do. But in the beginning, you probably is going to be getting the simpler stuff. So I was doing like cameras and sticks and all these kind of things here. But I mean, it's not about doing the super sexy stuff in the beginning. It's about getting used to a pipeline. You have to learn Linux. You're completely new structure around you.
Getting your foot in the door.
There are 1,000 people in the companies, and it's big and scary. So you're lucky to get simple things in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, the way my internship started out was, you get there. The Mill was nice. They had breakfast, and they just moved into a new building. Always great.
Such a nice building.
It's a really nice building. But yeah, my internship was specifically focused also on 3D modeling. I think they had some other schemes for maybe compositing and some more generalist stuff. But I worked on a commercial for what is that? Was it like Nissan or something?
Yeah,
it was something like
some car company.
Some car commercial. Just modeling stuff and fixing things. And I also did some brief work on like a BBC commercial. That was a little bit texturing, some modeling here and there. So it's just getting used to the pipeline and working with people that are similar to you, working with supervisors, learning to take feedback, and iterating on your model until it gets approved.
Yeah, if you get internships, you are most likely more than qualified to do the job because you get it because you're skilled. Like we said, your hard skills are the most important thing here. But what you don't necessarily know is, how do you work in a production? Like that's what we talked about in our different videos as well about this specific thing. That's that's a whole different beast. That
I saw someone left a comment that we say this a lot. If we could elaborate on what is a ZBrush cowboy, and this is exactly what a ZBrush cowboy doesn't know. A ZBrush cowboy, it doesn't it specifically refers to someone who only knows ZBrush, but it can be other things as well. It's someone in a production who aren't doing stuff pipeline friendly. So it kind of makes life harder for everyone else. They might be amazing in that one software they're doing, but coming into a production, you really learn to work with everyone else in the pipe.
It's like if you're a concept artist and you want to draw everything. Sorry, that takes too much time. You got to photo bash stuff. Like if some dude can photo bash an environment together and do some blocking in 3D and just get something done in half a day, and you start drawing your perspective grid and like all these kind of things, it's going to take you like 4 weeks to get to the same point. That's a huge part of learning. We're learning where you can really cut corners and where you can't cut corners. Huge part of that. One of the also really good things about being an intern was that at least I was part of, I think we're 7 other interns or 8 other interns, and I'm still friends with some of them today. And it's a great bunch of people, and you really have some guys who's going through the same thing as you are as well. So that's such a good way of learning. And there's also a big chance that you might get hired at the end of it as well. That really just depends. When I finished Framestore, they weren't hiring. They just let a bunch of people go, which, this stuff happens. But if they are hiring, there's a big chance that you'll be hired as an artist here. I know a lot of guys who actually got hired through internship schemes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get hired either. That was... I think we were talking about job opportunities in the coming months. My internship was actually after the traditional summer internships. I was like an additional intern. I was like
you started in August, like August.
The leftover internship kind of thing. So there was a bit of a quiet patch there as well. But they were talking about having jobs coming up in the new year. But it ended up there was another company that picked me up in the meantime. Yeah. So that was cool. Yeah. But the internship is really good to just get a feel for how it is to actually work in a real production.
It really is. And when you're there, really take full advantage of it. Get to know as many people as you can. Network as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And go to the pub, go to parties, add your coworkers on Facebook, all these kind of things. Just get to know your people.
I think it's important that you don't just sit in front of your screen and you don't just do the work all day every day, because networking is such a huge part of this. Yeah, that's how I got my first job. Yeah. That was purely through net. I didn't apply for any job.
No,
I knew a guy who was like, "Hey, do you need a job?" I was like, "Yeah, I need a job.
I'll take a job or two."
Yeah, so it's one of those things where the people you know and the people you spend time with it actually matters.
Yeah.
It's not just you sitting in front of the computer doing the work all the time.
Yeah. So there are cases though where you do get to work on some really cool stuff as well, and that of course depends heavily on what you qualified for. When I was at MPC, I was actually mentoring some of the interns. I mentored interns for 2 years there, and the first year there wasn't a whole lot of work to do because there was a quiet patch. But the second year we worked on Alien Covenant, and we did some of the most hero creatures on that film. And the guy who was interning at that year, he was absolutely fantastic to work with, but he was an intern. He essentially concepted up and modeled one of the main creatures, one of the neomorphs for the movie, which is fantastic. So when he graduated the year after, he had a neomorph from Alien Covenant in his reel. You can't compete with that.
Nah.
If you have some turntables of some perfectly fine 3D models, and the guy your competition has a neomorph from Alien Covenant, game over.
It's like production experience and production, material in your portfolio is really invaluable.
Yeah,
it's
really
so hard
is.
because it's so hard to judge someone. Let's say you're applying for a production job. It's so hard to judge. I mean, their work might be fine, but because they have nothing from production, you don't really know if they'll work in a production.
Yeah.
So it's
Might be a ZBrush cowboy.
might be a ZBrush cowboy or a Photoshop cowboy. I don't know, but just
Might be a cowboy.
a cowboy nonetheless.
So one thing we want to talk about as well is that it's super useful to go to festivals when you're applying for jobs or you're interested in you're going into the job market. Some of the major festivals are FMX in Stuttgart in Germany. You have the animation festival in Annecy in France, and then you have SIGGRAPH. SIGGRAPH is, I believe there are SIGGRAPHs around the world. Like I think you have SIGGRAPH Asia, you have some SIGGRAPH in London, but the majority is in the States. I think SIGGRAPH moves around every single year, but those festivals are fantastic. There are recruiters coming from all the major studios. There were just tons of professionals there. You can, again, go to the pub. I met a lot of people there who I'm in touch with still today through FMX when we went there. We went there a couple of months before we finished. And it's just a really useful way of just networking. It's also a lot of fun. You get to go there and you get to see all the high-end talks about when we were there. It was like how they did Frozen and the cinematography behind that. It was breakdowns of the first Pacific Rim.
That was something else.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
There are good and bad talks.
Yeah, and the circus was there talking about his stuff, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
You just have a lot of really cool people attending these festivals.
And you, of course, have all the recruiters from all the different companies.
Yeah.
They always show up to all the festivals with their booths, and people queue and to have a look at it. So it's really valuable if you can go to a festival, if it's one that's near you or if it's a bigger one. Yeah. It's a good way to meet the companies.
Absolutely. But again, to reiterate our point, this is only worth something if you have a good portfolio.
Yeah.
Like if you go there to network and you might have a drink with the head of 3D at NPC or whatnot, doesn't matter. Sure, he might think you're a cool dude. Yeah. But that's where it ends.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
The most important thing here is to have a good portfolio. So, which brings us to 2 points. The first one is always have your portfolio ready. So if you're in school or wherever you are, have your portfolio available, meaning have something like an art station or have a reel ready or whatnot. Don't just be completely empty on the internet and then the day before the rookies deadline or whatnot launches, then you put your reel up on Vimeo or YouTube. Really have a presence online. Have an art station which is up to date, and you don't have to have more than that. Having an art station is perfectly adequate. Just put your reel up as well on a separate site. If your job requires a reel, not all jobs do that. Mm-hmm. For instance, we have a blog on our website called Why I Hate Demo Reels by Gavin Golden, who's talking about why you should never have a demo reel if you go for gaming, unless it requires motion.
Unless it requires motion, yeah. It's a really interesting read.
Yeah, it turns out it's really hard to evaluate animation from still images.
Really, because you just have a lot of them and you just capture them really fast.
In a video.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah. So really just have your reel and portfolio available at any one point. This could really make a difference because you might have a surprise visit on your school from recruiters or people from the studios. And you really want to have your reel available.
It really makes a difference.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's like puns all the time, like with the reels.
Oh, that's terrible. But I'll give you half a point for that.
Thanks.
Like a few months ago, I was traveling with recruitment at the studio we both work for DNEG, and I was traveling around London and the UK with a couple of recruiters, and it's so helpful when we meet students if they have their reel and their portfolio ready. Because then we can just go to our desk and be like, what's up?
Yeah.
Show me your stuff. And then we can give them feedback. But they're like, I'm going to open Maya and look at some stuff here. Like, it's really unintuitive.
But also, you don't have time for it.
You don't have time for it all. Like, one of the schools, we went to Bournemouth. that was amazing. It was really cool seeing Bournemouth. But there are like 120 people per year. In total, I had a talk there and they're like, oh, what, 200 people in a talk? And then you talk to people afterwards and there was a queue of like 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
And it's like, show me your stuff on your phone or iPad or whatnot. Don't bring me to your desk and be like, here's Maya. I don't have time for that kind of stuff. So really have it available.
I think that's an important note about going to festivals or recruitment drives in general, is that have your reel offline. If you're bringing a reel or portfolio, have it offline and available on a decently sized screen. Yeah. I mean, if you have one of those big Asian phones that are just like basically like a phablet kind of thing.
Yeah, like if you have a 7-inch.
That's probably fine, but like something like a small iPad or a similar Google tablet or something, just something that you can show off quickly, something that doesn't have to buffer, doesn't rely on internet. Yeah. Because a lot of these people are busy. Yeah. You know, you have the recruiters from different companies at festivals. They have lines that extend for hours, maybe, and they don't have time for oh no, my reel doesn't load. Let me just find this other thing. You know, it doesn't work like that.
And an important point here as well is that when you're talking to the recruiters, you're essentially presenting yourself as a professional person. Yeah. And like we said, the most important thing is your reel. And turns out you aren't prepared to show off the most important thing here. Yeah. You know, like this is important. It's important that your overall presentation is to, if you're well dressed, you come up to them and your reel is just ready. You click boom, and then your reel is well presented. That gives a really good first impression. This kind of stuff really matters. So. I mean, it's not saying you have to buy an iPad for it, but, see if you can, like, that's what I did. I didn't have an iPad when I went to FMX, but I borrowed this, like, shitty tablet from, with you or another friend of ours, and it was, what was it, like a Galaxy Note?
Like a Google Nexus that was, I don't know, I think that was a defect in those tablets.
Yeah, you got it for free.
I got it for free. Yeah. That's how bad it was.
Samsung gave it out for free to people. And I think it was a 9-inch or 11-inch one, but the point was that it could display video perfectly well. So that was just such a big, it was such a helpful point. But I mean, regardless if you're going to festival or not, have your reel available. Like that's what I did on my phone. I just had, I'm on Android and you can make little widgets. So I just had one click button, which open in VLC or something, and it would just open up my show reel right away. It was instant.
Yeah, so if you're on iOS, connect to iTunes, get your movie file into iTunes, make sure that it wants to sync it to your phone, and then just make sure it's on. It's very intuitive. Yeah, very intuitive.
So do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the best.
No, it's not the best. But also, if you go to festivals or in general, I recommend having business cards. Like this might be like, they're pretty cheap. They're like 20, 30 pounds or whatnot. And I still have mine from FMX. I have like 400 of them. Still have a bunch. I don't use them a whole lot today. But when I've been going around networking and like with... going around to schools and then students can hold of me instead of like, oh, my email is henning.whatever. Yeah. It's just like, here's my card.
Yeah, but think about how many people you meet in like these settings. Yeah. Like if someone gives you their info or maybe a little piece of note or they just tell it to you, you forget because maybe you meet hundreds of people. Yeah. So having something that's memorable, like a memorable business card is also good.
Definitely, yeah. Like these people are picking up a lot of them.
Yeah,
but I mean that's what I do as well when I'm doing this. I've got business cards, and then I go back home to my hotel room or to wherever I am, and just look through them afterwards. I keep all of them. I don't look through them during the day. So just having a business card can really make or break it. Like let's say you give it to the head of 3D at a company or a recruiter or whatnot. They're gonna bring it, and they might look through it later on. It's a really intuitive way of spreading your.
It's like I don't find a lot of uses for business cards these days because it's so easy to share info. There was like, do you remember there was like, I think it was like a Nokia phone where you could bump them together and you would like swap info. That was pretty cool. But really cool. I was doing a presentation about Marvelous Designer for what's it called? The concept stuff in
concept
workshop something
workshop. There's a concept artist workshop. See, industry workshops. That's the one. We're not editing this out. This is how you can see our brain working in real time here. It's called Industry Workshop, and it's in London, and it's amazing.
I did a presentation for Marvelous Designer at Industry Workshop, and I met a bunch of people because I was just in the booth all day. Yeah. And I only remember one guy because he gave me his business card. And it was cool. So we had a chat with him afterwards, a cool business card as well. But everyone else that I met, it's hard to keep track of because there are just so many people that run through every day.
Yeah.
And I one time, like where I have used it in the past is I worked for a brief period in Japan, and they're crazy about business cards. It's like a whole ceremony when you give your business cards in Japan. So if you're applying for internships, you can do that in Japan as well. There are some studios. Okay. That's actually one we could add to the list here. I did sort of it was kind of like an internship, but more like a work placement kind of thing for a company called Mont Blanc. And they would take people from overseas and just have them in there. And it was pretty useful to have the business cards at that point. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I still used them. I was doing martial art in London as well, and I met tons of interesting people there. Just like, not related to CG at all, but it's like, you want to get a drink. How do I reach you? Well, my number is just, here's my card.
Yeah.
So, really useful. But we shouldn't talk too much more about business cards because there's a card with a name on it. It's super simple. Keep it simple. So, also, before you make your real end portfolio, though, just be sure to figure out what the studios are looking for. This is something we have been talking about before, but we just want to reiterate that. If you are applying for an internship at Disney, don't necessarily show super high-level ZBrush stuff with crazy texturing. Show simple but solid characters.
Yeah.
If you're going for the big studios, don't show simple, solid characters. Show solid, complicated characters, because that's what we're going for. Just really figure out what it is you're going for, and then make that. So with all this said, and that's a little 20-minute intro here to all this, let's look through some of the specific...
Hey, let's get started.
Let's get started with this. So let's look through some of the specifics here. So the first one here is the rookies, which is really a fantastic service. If you are a student, go sign up for the rookies and enter. Like, no debate. Do that. Yeah, now you're taken to a site where you can log in, which did nothing.
Super interesting. No, but the cool thing about the rookies, like we mentioned before, is that it connects you with a bunch of different internships.
Yes.
So you it just makes it easier for you to apply.
Yeah.
There's also the thing about your competition.
Yeah.
Because it's grown to the size it has, it's everyone is on there. So you're going to have the best of the best students in there as well, and those are going to be your competition.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. Look through what the other people have done. Just present your very best work to this. There are a bunch of different kinds of internships that they offer as well. So, that's why they connect you with these different studios, whether it's for games, for VFX, for commercials. Yeah. They sort of tailor it to what you're applying for.
Yeah. Yeah, I really can't stress how important that is to actually look through the entries here. There are some fantastic entries. All the ones we look through here just are really solid. Like, this kind of stuff is really good character art. Great work, William.
Yeah.
Like,
it's in game dev.
Just really good stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the problems I've seen with students is you get locked into your own little bubble where you assume that the best person in class is the best person in the industry and the worst person in class is the worst person. But that's not even close to true. Sure, you might have the best person in the class be the best in the industry, but that's just chance. That's just luck. Most people in your class are not the true representation of the industry. If you are going for the biggest studios, you are competing against some of the best people in the world, and you just got to figure out what the true level is.
Yeah.
So what you can do is, first you can look at the entries here, but you can also look at the past winners of this. Really just figure out who won the CG Student Awards or the rookies over the last few years, and just see that level. That's a very true representation of some of the best you have as students here. And what I would also recommend is don't worry too much about the prices. Yeah, there are some really cool prices here. Like if you go to the tab there to the left there, you can see the prices here, and it's like one Cintiq, and there's Oculus Rift, and there's V-Ray, Houdini, ZBrush. It's all this stuff from the Foundry, the production bundle, worth so much money.
Yeah.
This is all super cool. Like,
they have a lot of prizes.
There are a lot of prizes here. Like you can win 3D Studio Max, and you can win all these kind of things here, like Fusion, fantastic tool by Blackmagic.
F-Track.
Really cool stuff, like really cool prices. But the reason I say don't care too much about it is if you have an Oculus Rift or not, that doesn't really change your And that doesn't really vindicate your 4 years you spent in university. That's a tool.
Yeah.
In a few years, all these tools here, pretty much without exceptions, are obsolete. What you should care about is getting an internship. That is really the key price here. Like, it's super cool to get licenses for various software, but the internships is really what will make or break it here. Like, that's if I got back 4 or 5 years ago when we got our internship. If we got a graphics card at that point, or if we want a version of whatever software, that would be obsolete by now. But the internship we got, which was only like 2 months, that really propelled our career here.
I mean, that is the main prize. It's. I think the other stuff is kind of like, it's vanity stuff that's good for motivating people to really apply, because like, oh, cool, I can win a license of ZBrush or that.
And that's awesome.
It is awesome, but it's not the most important part of this.
No, definitely not. So the rookies, a fantastic resource. Nothing bad to say about that at all. Their mission is really to connect professionals to connect the students to professionals here, and they're doing a fantastic job with that. Yeah. So really check out the rookies and figure out just really figure out what it's all about and enter. Check out all the other competitors here as well. And another great thing of that as well is that they do a lot of social media and marketing for the people who enter and winners. Like if you enter with good stuff, they're probably going to share your stuff on social media. And
good way to get exposure. Yeah.
It's a really good way of getting exposure, because we know for a fact that the judges and all the big studios are looking at your work. So it's a really good way.
They have people from the industry that are judges on the panel, so they will see your work anyway. It's cool.
So with the rookies down, let's look at some of the other internships we have here.
We should mention the submission for the rookies closes on the 31st of May.
Good point. Yes.
So get your stuff in before that. You have about a month and a half now.
Yeah. So. Depending on where you are, if you're looking at this from the future, sorry you're too late.
Yeah.
Then do it next year. Like most of these internships are going every single year. So if you were to check this out like in June or something, which I'm sure a lot of you are, then just note that you can prepare for this next year as well.
Yeah. That's cool. I think I saw someone using our lighting scene.
Oh. Well, you should all be using our lighting scene. So this is Framestore. This is the internship I personally had. This is back in 2014. And this was really fantastic. I can't say enough good things about the Framestore internships. Like I said, I started off doing it over in Paddington. I had a mentor and who was really helpful. His name was Chris, and he was really, really helpful.
Chris is amazing.
We both work with Chris. Shout out to Chris. So you get to work on real projects. It's a paid project. At least when I was there, it was a paid accommodation, and there is definitely a chance that you'll be hired afterwards. Of course, depending on your performance and depending on if there is actual work.
Yeah, and they have different kinds of programs, but the programs right now that are running now, they are, I guess, the summer programs. The summer programs are running now. So, and they have a deadline. From what we could find, there's a deadline for both the Montreal and the London studio, which is for London is the 6th of May, and for Montreal is the 29th of April. Yeah. So the Montreal one is a little more tight.
Yeah. And here we are also on screen currently London and Los Angeles internships as well, because all these big studios they have studios everywhere, like they're global studios. Yeah. So just check out if they have something relevant to where you currently are. If not, I do recommend moving for the city. Like if they do provide accommodation, that's no problem at all. The only thing will be if there are issues with the visa or whatnot. But if getting a visa isn't an issue, move to London. Like if you're a student in Denmark, which we were, I would have easily moved to London for the summer. Yeah. One of the also reasons we're doing these videos is because I genuinely didn't know that internships was a thing. Of course, we hear that you could do internships, that it is a thing as a general thing, but I didn't know it was something you could actually do. No. Like, I remember you had an internship at Ghost during the first year of school. The thought hadn't crossed my mind until then. That was something I could do. So for the second year, I didn't do an internship. For the third year, I did, and I got the Framestore one. And that really was what propelled me into the field. I
think it's good with those, because so to take someone like Ghost. Ghost is a VFX house in Denmark, and
really cool stuff.
It was like one of those weird unofficial kind of internships. Like, we need someone to work. Yeah, well, let's pretend it's an internship for the summer for a couple months.
Yeah.
And I've had a really good relationship with them ever since.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of freelance for them.
Yeah.
Just got a really good relationship. Obviously now it's a little more tricky when you're full-time employed to do this kind of stuff, but
it'd also be pretty heavily frowned upon as well. Like,
that too.
Yeah, don't work for the competitor.
And then we couldn't really find anything this year about NPC. So they've offered internships in the past, but so far there's nothing that we could find about them.
I was mentoring them for 2 years, like I said, and they were fantastic. Maybe they've already passed. Maybe they were, when I was applying, it was deadline was like end of March or something.
Okay. But what you could always do is you could always, get in touch with them. Maybe on LinkedIn, send them an email just to hear do they have like a internship scheme like this?
For sure. And then we have, let's look at the next one up here. So this is DNEG. So this is where we're working, and they have a couple different schemes here. They have the graduate trainee scheme, and then they have the summer internship scheme, and then the apprenticeship program. We're pretty much going to be talking about the first two here. We're not talking about the apprenticeship or the runner scheme here. As a general thing, I don't personally recommend people becoming runners.
No, me neither.
There are some merit to it. If you are incredibly skilled and you just need to get your foot in the door, there is some merit to it. But
I just dislike the concept of being a runner, especially if you've gone to school.
Yeah.
You've spent so many years of your life preparing for something, and then you start as a runner. But yeah, whatever.
For some people, that is the right choice. But for now, we are going to be talking about the graduate training scheme, which you have in London and Vancouver. And this is for people who have already graduated. So this is a really cool program where you get to work for a couple of months with the teams in London and Vancouver. And hopefully you'll join the team afterwards as a 3D artist in the field you're applying for. Mm-hmm. And then we have the summer internship, which is an internship, which is in the summer, as you might have guessed. Very similar to the graduate scheme in the work you get to do, but it's during the summer. I believe you have to be in school for this. So a lot of the internships, the summer internships, you have to be in school. You have to be in the second year, between second and third year for that.
Some programs also allow within a period after you graduated.
Yes, exactly.
So there are different kinds of schemes here.
Yeah, so DNEG kind of combined this put those into two. So that you have the graduate scheme for if you have graduated, and then the summer if you're still in school.
Yeah.
Definitely check this out. Like, DNEG is a fantastic place to work. Highly recommend it to anyone. Very friendly and good.
We have to say that because we work there. Otherwise, we get fired.
Yeah, we get mega fired. We actually have our DNEG death squad outside right now.
So we couldn't really find this on the website, but we've been told that the deadline for the internships here is the 11th of May.
Yeah, that's for both of them.
Yeah.
That is fresh out of
DNEG
DNEG recruiters.
DNEG recruiters.
So highly recommend DNEG. It's a fantastic
maybe it's
place.
on their jobs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. Like apply through the job portal here, and then see if that's something which is right for you. And then we have Bluesue. Bluesue is a slightly smaller studio compared to the bigger VFX studios in London. It's a really cool studio. They do a bunch of really stylized and fun animation. They do the commercial, they do kids TV, and it's more colorful and fun stuff.
It's definitely not VFX.
Definitely not VFX. It's very different.
Yeah.
Which is not to say it's better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's more in line with like Disney or Pixar.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into more stylized things like that, then I think Bluesue might be a good place to try and start out. Absolutely.
So deadline for that is Monday, the 7th of May.
So a little less time than some of the other ones right now. But I mean, so the deadlines are approaching.
Yeah.
And so if you're really quick with your reel, I think you should be able to get something together.
Which is also gets to our point before that, have a portfolio ready at any one point. Because if you suddenly see that, there's a job opening at the studio I really want to go to, you just apply. You don't have to make a reel. Making a reel is a pain in the ass. It really takes a few weeks at a minimum to do. So have your portfolio ready, because then you can just start applying to all of them. And then we have Cinesite. Cinesite is a VFX studio in London and I believe Montreal now.
Yeah.
And they do a bunch of cool stuff. So we couldn't really find a deadline for this. We just found an application site here. Yeah. We're of course linking all these in the comments as well.
So I used to work for Cinesite as well, and Cinesite is a wonderful company. This is actually where I got my first job, like real job outside of internship job here in London, and they have a bunch of cool shows. They got a lot of big shows as well.
Yeah,
they're really a heavy hitter, and it's a really nice atmosphere there. So at least here in London, I'm assuming it's very similar in Montreal.
Yeah, probably is.
So I would definitely also recommend you apply there. I mean, just apply everywhere.
Yeah,
really.
When you do apply everywhere, I have a thing which is not just so much a tip, it's more a necessity. Write personalized emails to them and cover letters. This is something the recruiters actually look at. Don't just write, hey, studio, I am person who's doing, like, write, what do you like about the studio? Why is it appealing? Maybe you have some friends there, and who are your friends at studios, and what have they said about it? Like, really make it personal.
And for the love of your future career, don't address DNEG as Cinesite or NPC as Framestore, because then you won't get a job.
Yeah, exactly. Like, most important part, your skills, but having a nice email to them and a nice cover letter and all that, it really is important. Like, I know some people don't really care about them, but I also know a lot of recruiters do care a lot about that.
And essentially, I mean, the recruiters are the ones that see your application first. They are the ones who decide if you go into no pile or maybe pile.
Yeah. So write personalized letters to all of them. And also, you can only apply online. Don't go to reception to them. I've heard of people doing that, being like, you go to the reception of a store and be like, can I have a job, please?
Yeah.
And like I heard that happen to just a few months ago. Somebody told me that they went to a studio and they just called them up and be like, yeah, can I speak to your head of 3D, please? No, you cannot. You apply online and that's it. Don't get weird. Don't be creepy and don't be weird. Apply online.
Appreciate the initiative, but there's a system in place for a reason. Because these studios get hundreds of applications. Yeah. And especially during internship season, that number just skyrockets. Yeah. So you'll get your time, get in line, and just apply.
With a lot of different things. Like, that's kind of how I approach 3D in general. Like, don't try to be fancy. try to be proper in this. Don't try to reinvent the wheel when it comes to your application. Don't be super informal in your application. Don't be like, hey, what's up, guys? Write this in a proper, respectful way. Have your portfolio be respectable. This is where you be a bit more conservative. Don't try to reinvent the wheel and do something crazy and spicy. So then we have ILM or Lucasfilm. So we couldn't really find the applications here. It just says learn more about the 2018 opportunities here. Then you click here and can't really find a whole lot.
Yeah, and I think if you click the Vancouver one, it doesn't exist anymore or something. Yeah. Job is no longer posted.
So if you're a recruiter from ILM, maybe check your website.
Yeah, but they do offer certain internships. Yeah. I know they have like a Greenlight kind of out of school. They do get interns directly from school, so there is that kind of program. But maybe see if you can get in touch with them and see what it's all about.
ILM will also be at all the big festivals as well. Like all the studios we mentioned now are pretty much going to be at most of the major recruitment events there are. Which also brings us to the whole about just to add on to what we talked about festivals beforehand, that just figure out what local festivals are near you as well. Or it doesn't have to be festivals. It could be like general recruitment events. A lot of the studios, they will have like an open house where you can just visit the studio and have a little tour, and they will just show a presentation. You have an opportunity to meet some important people. That's important. So definitely do that. And like I said, all these studios will most likely offer events like that.
Yeah. And as a sort of segue from Lucasfilm, we also have Disney.
Yeah.
But, so that's like the most confusing website in the world to find internships. I know because I applied for a 3D modeling internship in the summer, like 4 years ago, maybe, at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still offer that kind of internship, but they definitely do have internships on their sort of jobs listing websites. Yeah. So try to go through that and see if there's anything that applies to you. We found some more technical ones that might be for you, but we couldn't find anything with the deadlines and anything specific. But
deadline is so Disney is generally really good at internships and generally getting good students in.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out.
And then in the end, we have the mill. That's where I interned. And like most of these studios, they don't really care about deadlines. They just apply to internship@themill.com.
Yeah.
So do that. It's I think the mill is a fantastic place, and it's also one of those studios where because it's commercials, you have the opportunity to get your reel loaded with a bunch of shots a month after you're done with the show.
Yeah.
Because everything, I mean, you make something and the next week it airs on TV.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Now you can put it in your reel. Yeah. Whereas with a film, you might have to wait a year, 2 years before it comes out on DVD. And yeah, it's just I think the mill internship was one of the reasons that I got a job so quickly, because I just had a bunch of material, professional material in my reel really quickly.
Yeah, I was in film at that point while Morten was in commercial. And I couldn't show my stuff until like a year and a half later. Yeah. The longest I waited has been like, I think 2 years from when I worked on the show until it was done. I think that was Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Fantastic movie, guys. Fantastic. Yeah. But it just really takes a long time. Like if you're working on a film, like I think it's fair to say that you won't be able to show it until a year afterwards. Depending, of course, when you're out. If you're in the last stages, like lighting and comp, it's less time. Mm-hmm. But if you're in like the early stages, like we are in modeling and texturing and concepting,
takes a while.
Takes a long time.
Yeah.
So it seems here that the mill, they're interested in everything. If you have an interest in CG, animation, matte painting, physics, mathematics, marketing, or PR.
Oh wow.
So
So if you want an internship, just apply at the mill.
Yeah, yes. Like some of them they had like rigging internship, but here is like CG compositing.
So I mean, I can wholeheartedly recommend the mill. They're a fantastic studio. Yeah. Cool working environment.
Such a cool building.
Such a cool building, and they fast turnaround for your projects. Yeah. You get to the nice thing about working in commercials. I mean, it's a lot more fast paced than VFX, but it also means you get a lot more material a lot quicker.
Yeah.
It's not always to the same standard, obviously, because you're spending a month on a project versus spending a year and a half.
Absolutely.
But I mean, sometimes you do have longer projects that where you have proper time dedicated to it to really polish it.
Like the mill did some videos some years ago about some chimpanzees.
Oh,
I think that was for PETA or something.
Yeah.
Like that, and that was just like cutting edge. Like that was full on feature film quality.
Yeah, exactly.
So the big commercial studios like the mill, which I think is probably the most high level commercial studio in the world. Fantastic work.
So they're under the same umbrella as MPC now.
Yeah, they're owned by Technicolor.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely, like they say as well, due to the high volume. Just take a chill pill.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've gone through some of the most popular ones now, which definitely, if you're a student, the rookies. Like, without a doubt, check that out. Yeah. Also, check it out because it's good to enter, but also because it's good to check out your competition. Mm-hmm. But like with everything here, the most important thing here is your show reel. And if you watch this video and you're not a student, this is fine. You don't have to go through an internship. I want to be very clear on this. You do not have to go through an official internships or the rookies or anything else to get a job here.
No.
There are probably a lot more junior positions than there are internships. That's one thing we've seen as well.
Yeah, like, probably. Yeah.
Like when I was an intern at Framestore, we had one modeling position as an intern. That was me. And then the next year at MPC as well, there was one intern for modeling and texturing.
Yeah.
And that was it. So that's one position per year as an intern. It's really not a lot of spots here. So if you don't get it, that's because there are just an insane amount of people out there. So
yeah, don't be deterred if you don't get it, because there are definitely other ways in, and your reel is still your reel, so you can still use it to apply for jobs.
Absolutely. I honestly find that going in as a junior is probably easier than going in as an intern, just because there are just more junior jobs out there than there are internships. Like we said, one job a year, one internship a year in something like modeling for the big studios. There are more than one job a year in most likely, unless it's a really bad year.
The nice thing about the internship positions is that there are dedicated spots for it this time of year, but everyone's applying. Yeah. The hard thing about regular jobs is that there are definitely like downtime where studios just aren't looking for people.
Yeah.
And I usually find here in London that it happens in the summer. The summer's a bit of a slump. There's not as many positions available. Then we get to the fall and then it starts to ramp up again. Usually.
For sure. Yeah, so just don't be deterred.
Yeah.
Like, it's the main thing here, your showreel.
Yeah, for sure.
But really one of the key things about at least some of these internships, paid accommodation. I can't stress how important that is. This really allows you to go to a foreign city, work there for 2 months, and then just return back home.
But don't expect it.
Don't expect it, for
that's
sure.
definitely a luxury.
Yeah, that is definitely
like, if you looked through a lot of these internships, they probably don't offer accommodation, but they will offer some kind of pay.
Yeah.
Because I think they have to.
Yeah. But then the problem is the pay gets you get paid after a month, right?
Yeah,
so the first month you have to front that.
Yeah.
So
like deposit maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
And rent and it's expensive.
Yeah. So with all this said, we really hope this year has been useful and that you really find some cool internships, and best of luck in the rookies if you do enter that. Feel free to post your entry to the rookies in a comment.
Yeah.
And
it would be cool to check out what you guys are working on.
Yeah. If you have any questions about all this as well, feel free to just ask us in the comments, and we'll do our best to get back to you.
So thank you guys so much for watching. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Cool.